stay. I didn't really plan that out very well. Okay. How's it going? I wanted to make a quick video about something that a lot of people are interested in, and that is how much did it cost to get my car to where it is now. So I'm just going to lay it all out. I'm going to show like the window sticker. I'm going to show you exactly how much I paid for all the modifications, where I got them done, go over some performance data, and yeah, just so you guys know what's going on. I have a couple things I want to show you. I have the original window sticker for the car here, and then I also have a dyno chart from the place that I got all the work done to my car. So it shows the before and after, like whenever it was completely bone stock with only 7,000 miles on it, and then after with the heads, the cam, the intake, and the tune, and the long tube headers. So here's the window sticker. You can see originally this car was, if you can make that out, it was $96,505. It has, as far as options go, so the standard vehicle price, $74,305 for a standard Z06 with nothing. This car has the 3LZ package, which is $7,170. It has the Z06 package, which is the biggie. That, I feel like that's a must on used Mustang, or yeah, used Mustangs. Used Z06s like this, because it comes with the best of the best stuff, like the ceramic brakes that are used. I think Ferrari even used them maybe on the Enzo. I've heard rumors of that because they're made by Brembo. It has the 20-spoke competition gray aluminum 19-inch and 19-inch front, 20-inch rear wheels. It has carbon. This actually has a carbon fiber package too, which was $4,000 surprisingly. This is kind of interesting. So it has a carbon fiber package, but look at the carbon fiber. It's kind of underwhelming. It's a little not carbon fibery. So it's just it's basically black painted carbon fiber. If you can see that, it's dark in my garage. I'm sorry, but all it looks like is gloss black on all those pieces. The interestingly, the rear spoiler is also carbon fiber, but they just decided to paint that. And all Z06s have carbon fiber front fenders, so that's carbon fiber as well, but it wasn't listed. The front lip, again, painted carbon fiber. If you can see that, I know it's got to be dark in this footage. So then, yeah, onto the dyno chart. I'll go over the specifics here in a moment, but here is the before and after. There's probably a little bit of gloss here. I'm going to try and move this. So before, the car made 477 wheel horsepower, 465 torque. Now notice this is standard correction factor. So this isn't like what GM uses to measure their engines. They use SAE, and most dynos will correct to SAE. It's going to show, I'm going to say it's probably going to show about 10 or 15 horsepower less SAE corrected than what you're going to see here. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. These numbers, this is what this car made on this dyno on this given day. So you can see after was 616 horsepower at the wheels and 539 foot-pounds of torque. Now another thing I'm not really all that happy about, honestly, is instead of RPMs on the dyno chart, they did speed in fourth gear. So if I want to calculate what RPM I made, 500 foot-pounds of torque at, I have to go back and figure out what this transmission does in fourth gear at a given speed, I have to calculate it and figure out what RPM the engine was turning. It's kind of a pain in the ass, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know why they do it this way, but that's the way they did it. So, but either way, you can see it picked up a dramatic amount of power. These LS7s are ridiculous. I just saw a post on a Corvette forum from Mamo Motors, or Mamo, is it Mamo Motorsports or just Mamo? I'm not sure, but they picked up 200 wheel horsepower. 200 wheel horsepower from a heads cam intake package. Like, it's just unbelievable. They have a ridiculous intake manifold that makes really, really good power, and they apparently make some seriously good heads for the LS7 too. So 200 wheel horsepower is nuts. This is what, like 140, like 140 or something. That's just bonkers. All right, here we go. I'm going to go into the specifics of this package and how this all came about. I have a little cheat sheet here that has some information on it. This car did the half mile at 160 miles an hour. I think that's a really good benchmark for cars like this because, for one, this is a manual car, so in the quarter mile and even in roll racing, it's not going to keep up with stuff like McLarens and things like that. That they have these ridiculous transmissions that take milliseconds to shift. So, whereas this, especially with me driving, I'm losing, half a second every single time I shift, which is miles at, a drag strip. So, I did some digging, and I just decided to look up what cars trap speeds are in the half mile, because even if you mess up your launch in a half mile, your trap speed is going to be like probably 1 mile an hour off. It's a really good benchmark of like how much power does the car actually make. So I have a list here. 5th gen Dodge Viper, 152 miles an hour trap speed. The old C6 ZR1, 151 miles an hour trap speed. Now, keep in mind here, this is just what I'm finding online, and there's a lot of variation. Some people post numbers that seem actually like they're bullshit, and then some people post numbers that are way too low. Maybe they're like doing the half mile at Denver or something. So I'm trying to be like non-judgmental, non-biased, and I'm just picking like the most reasonable number based on the information I'm finding, the most like round number. So, okay, so back to the list. ZR1, the C6 ZR1, I found 151 miles per hour. Okay, so the C7 Z06, 152 miles per hour in the standing half mile. Now, this varies widely based on what source you're going after. I've seen 147 and I've seen 158 from a stock C7 Z06. So take it for what it's worth. I think 152 is about round number of what most people will see. The GT500, the crazy ass one that had like 600 and whatever ridiculous, like the most highest horsepower car ever in the United States up to that point. That GT500, 151 miles per hour. There's a trend here actually. It's kind of interesting. Dodge Hellcat, 707 horsepower. That thing was, whenever it came out, people just couldn't even believe it. It didn't even seem road legal almost. Like, I remember I saw a video of the exhaust note the very first time, and I'm like, that cannot be an exhaust that's road legal. There's no way. That did 152 miles per hour. Is about the round estimate of what I've seen. So here's a more reasonable fast car. So BMW M3, do you remember the E92 M3s, the one with the V8, like the very last M3 with the V8 that everybody loved? Amazing driving car, brilliant car. I forget the exact number, but over 400 horsepower. I'm sorry, I'm going to get bashed on that one, but it was a very, very fast car for its time when it came out. I found one of those with an intake and a catless exhaust, 137 miles an hour in the half mile. So that just shows you how bonkers these cars are nowadays. It's nuts. Ferrari 488. That's the new one that's the turbocharged car with some insane amount of power. That is 159 miles per hour. A McLaren 570S. The fastest I found it in the half mile is 161 miles per hour. That car you'll see all over the internet, drag racing some crazy cars and just stomping them. It's unbelievable. All right, here we go. McLaren NP4-12C. If you remember those, they had 500 and some horsepower or something like that, and then they got a software update and boosted it over 600. And then they were just unstoppable on the drag strip, which is ridiculous because that's not what they're for. They do 156 miles per hour in the half mile. McLaren 720S. Now we're getting into like insane territory. So the McLaren 720S, I'm sure you've seen the drag times videos because that guy bought one and he's just like, he's beating ridiculous stuff like supercharged Lamborghinis and like insane Supras and stuff. He's just smearing them all. Like the thing dynoed at like 690 wheel horsepower or something, and those cars are under 3,000 pounds. Those run 174 miles per hour in the half mile. That's just absurd, which is actually kind of interesting because I looked it up. And I don't know if you remember, but maybe about 2 years ago, the Porsche 918 was the fastest, like, standing start car that anybody was talking about. The fastest. It was killing everything. And that does the half mile at 174 miles an hour as well. I thought that was really interesting. For some perspective on that, the Bugatti Veyron, which for years was by far miles ahead of everybody. It was the first, like, besides the GTR, which wasn't really anything until you did some work to it, but besides that car, it was like one of the only four-wheel drive cars, all-wheel drive cars, that could really put the power down and had the power to put down. And it was just stomping everything. I remember seeing a drag race between it and the old McLaren F1, and it just like left it in the dust like it was nothing. It was just sickening. That does the half mile in 172 miles an hour. So Bugatti Veyron's 2 miles an hour slower than the McLaren 720S and the Porsche 918. So, and then back to the Corvette. This was 160 miles an hour. So this car cost me $55,000. That's what I paid. I may have overpaid, honestly. You can get Z06s for $35,000. The reason this car was so expensive was because of the options and because of the miles. The car only had 7,000 miles on it whenever I got it. I don't even think it was 7,000. And it has, you know, all the Z06 package and all that good stuff. So that was the issue there. But then, so you start with 505 horsepower. Thanks to Engineering Explained, I did a calculation based on the frontal area of the car, the drag coefficient, the weight of the car, a couple other variables and things. And it takes 440 wheel horsepower for this car to hit 200 miles per hour, which is right about on the money. They rated it at 198. But interestingly, the ZR1 that came out a couple years later, its top speed was 205, and they made a very big deal about telling everyone that 205 was the first Corvette ever to go over 200. I've seen reports of this car stock going over 200. Not sure how reliable they are, but nonetheless, it's kind of interesting to crunch the numbers and find out it probably could do over 200 stock. I crunched the numbers at the new horsepower rating. Now, keep in mind, it takes crazy amounts of power for every 1 mile per hour over 200 miles an hour. Crazy. So at 616 wheel horsepower, I calculated based on the drag coefficient. Mine's a little different. It's a little worse because of the chin spoiler and the different aero bits and the spoiler in the back and stuff. But this should be able to do 215 miles an hour. Okay, so now to the modifications. The big problem with everybody says about these cars is with the valve guide thing that may or may not be a problem. It's probably not that big of a deal because if everybody had it, people would be raising hell and GM would have to fix it for everybody. And it's not like a 50% probability. It's more like maybe a 10% probability, which is enough for most people, including me, to get this dealt with. So I decided to take it to a shop in Delaware called Race Proven Motorsports because they had amazing reviews. Everybody was talking about them. I saw Fran, the guy that owns the place, he's heavily active on the forums, and he seems like he has his head together. He's not like talking shit. Like whenever I was in the BMW world, there was a couple companies that were heavily involved in like BMW tuning with the engines that I had in my BMW. And they just bickered back and forth, and it was the most childish thing I ever saw in the world, and they did it publicly on the internet, and I just didn't want anything to do with it anymore. And to be honest, that's one of the main reasons I sold that car. It was just like all this childish bickering. It was ridiculous. And then I got on the Z06 forums, and it was people that had their head together, and they're not bitching about stuff. They're just like, hey, this doesn't work with my car. Here's why I think it doesn't work with my car. Can anybody give me a hand? And on the BMW forums, it was like, oh, this son of a bitch gave me like this crap tune, and now I get... Or they'd be like, I get code whatever. What is it? And they wouldn't just Google it and find out what the code meant. Like, it was just getting very, very old. So, sorry, rant. Big time rant there. But back to Race Proven Motorsports. So, I got what they call their Stage 3 performance package. So, retail price on this package, I'll just tell you right up front. Retail price is $9,495. Currently, on their website, they're selling it for $8,494. My cost. So, the only change I made, their package, they want you to run a Veraram intake, which is probably what I should have done, because they know what they're talking about, but I really, really liked the look of the carbon fiber Corsa intake. So what I decided to do was go with the Corsa intake, which is a little more expensive, just slightly. So that's only $60 difference. They were awesome. Like, they could have charged me $150. They could have been like, oh, that's carbon fiber, so that's $150. They could have easily done that, but they didn't. $60 for that, and they gave me, it was kind of like a Black Friday deal. So they actually gave me $500 off the labor for all this stuff. So came to $8,055 for everything, which I think is pretty damn reasonable considering what you get. Here's what you get. Ancient 7/8 American Racing long tube headers without cats. But I actually opted for the high flow cats, which is another $120, which is reasonable. Then I went with the Corsa intake again, but their package comes with a Veraram VR SC1R cold air intake. It comes with RPM custom cam package, which includes, sorry I'm reading off this, but that package includes their RPM custom cam, which I've seen online listed as a B3 cam. You can order it separately if you want. It comes with Brian Tooley Racing dual valve spring kit, Brian Tooley Racing hardened push rods, GM LS7 timing chain, which is kind of cool. They change the timing chain out for you while they're in there. GM water pump gaskets, GM crank pulley bolt and seal, Mobil 1 oil change, of course, and NGK TR55 spark plugs. All right, it also comes with advanced induction poured and polished 280cc CNC'd cylinder head package. Whenever I was shopping for cylinder heads, these guys just seem to kick ass. So I'm like, I got to go with these guys. It includes REV stainless steel exhaust valves, CHE bronze valve guides, GM MLS LS cylinder head gaskets, sorry it's a mouthful, GM LS7 lifters, and ARP head studs. And then they do their custom dyno tune using HP tuners. And that is another primary reason why I went with them. The tunes coming out of that shop are unbelievable. I see videos all the time from them taking cars that are just basket cases or just not making any power. They get on the dyno and Fran immediately finds a problem and he's like, okay, this is stupid, I'm going to fix it. And I'm just blown away with that. Like, that's impressive. Like, that takes years of experience. And if you watch all their videos, they're doing Z06 after Z06 after ZR1 after CTSV after Camaro, one after another, back to back, all day long. I mean, how could they not be good at tuning those cars. If they blew these cars up, they ran them too lean, if they had like the wrong fuel trims, if people were going home and it was getting hot out and then they started to stutter on the highway, they'd be hearing all kinds of shit. Well, I don't hear anything. I don't hear there's no negativity about them. They've got their freaking tuning down. And that's the kind of stuff that I feel like, I mean, you can learn tuning. I'm sure you can get on Google and punch up some YouTube videos and learn HP tuners with no problem at all. And you could probably make a pretty cool tune, but it's not going to be as good as these guys because they know these little tiny intricacies that only come to you after experience and after doing it several times over and over and over and over again. So, yeah, that's about it. 616 wheel horsepower, 539 wheel torque after all this goodness. And this car is a blast. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. See ya.